My name, for the record, is Jessica Henderson. I was went to an arts high school, and so when I was graduating from there, I was trying to decide between an art school or Bethel, Bethel or Northwestern, or like San Francisco Art Institute or the Museum School in Boston was kind of my list. And I, having had the art school background, knew that that would be a more narrow experience. I also had interests in, I worked at youth summer camps, and so interest in ministry, interest in being a part of small groups and doing all like that kind of social side of. I wanted to be able to live into my faith during college. I also played hockey in the beginning, and I also had other, like, I loved art, but I had a lot of other interests too. So I just ended up choosing Bethel because I knew I could do kind of a wider range of things when I got here. So I was a double major in art and philosophy, and then I, at the end, ran out of time. So I'm like, I don't know, one class away from majoring in philosophy. So it was an art major and philosophy minor. I mean, as with everything, like, I'm a huge, I think, a fan and advocate for like breadth of experience and being a curious and developed person across a lot of areas. And so I love, like, for me, being an artist and an athlete was so satisfying, and it continues to be, like, different sides of my brain and my body. And so I love that about a place like this, that we can have theater performances and music performances and athletic events, and each of those, and academic events, but each of those things brings just a different richness to being a rounded person. So I think obviously athletics has a lot to do with giving the campus community experiences to rally around and stuff like that. But I think it's one piece of kind of all the extracurriculars that a place like this has to offer. Yeah, when I was a student, I mean, I was like all in on all the things. I was, in like the dorm advisory committee and like shift leaders and all that different kind of stuff. I just really enjoyed being involved. I was a teaching assistant for a number of professors. I was a teaching assistant for art history. I was a teaching assistant for printmaking. I was, minor in philosophy. Played on the sports, on the hockey team. I feel like I was the person who showed up the first week and went to the clubs fair and just like participated in everything. Like, I'm going to join the rugby team. Like, never touched that in my life. So definitely did all that stuff when I was here. So as a professor, I've been able to participate in lots of areas of campus. I've obviously been on a number of committees, from like bringing special speakers onto campus, or being on the Senate, faculty Senate. I was a Woven Lives mentor for a while. Yeah, I feel like that. Oh, when I was a student, I got to do one of these Edgren Scholarship projects too with faculty members that then became my colleagues. So that was a really fun experience also. As a professor, I mean, it's my job. So it is harder. When I was a student and younger, just in life, everything was exciting and an unlimited possibility. And so obviously I'm just in a different place on the other side of the coin, trying to participate in leadership and the future of the school and some of the stuff that's maybe not as fun, obviously, than being on the student side of things. But I think in a lot of ways it's really, really similar, which is why I'm so endeared. I mean, when I was graduated, I always knew I was going to have a career in art. I was a practicing designer. I really liked that. I never had any ambitions to work like really the agency hustle life. Like, I knew that wasn't going to be my end goal. I ultimately wanted to teach, and I kind of always just knew this was it. This was, I don't know how, but this was where I wanted to be. And this is what I wanted to get back to. And in a lot of ways, what I love about it is that the core of it feels the same still, and in like all the right ways, not in like a kind of stodgy, stubborn way, but in the ways that I love. So I think that's pretty special. This is where we get to the questions where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do this, because I'm going through that. And to be honest, when I signed up to talk, I thought, surely I have so much to say about the woman experience at Bethel, being a faculty member who wants to be here for a long time and was here as a student and has all of my deeply rooted best, female friendships out of this place, and that sustain me now as an adult. And but when I go through, I hadn't quite really realized, like, not very many. When I was and I don't think it bothered me at the time, and I'm trying to decide if it bothers me now. All of the faculty in the art department when I was there were male. I think Professor Wingard joined maybe as I was leaving or very shortly around there, but we didn't cross paths much. And then all of the philosophy professors I interacted with were male. All of the hockey staff, coaching staff were male. And then I was thinking of some of my favorite, like I took a lot of classes in the business department. I had kind of an unofficial business minor, but there were some females in there that were impactful, had, impactful classes, but they were like adjuncts. So it was like a 1 semester interaction. So I was kind of surprised, like recalling that, I definitely think walking out of here with mentors was one of the best parts of this experience. Like I feel like I have a ton of them, but I didn't have very many female teachers. During COVID, I decided I was going to build a studio in my backyard, and my construction experience is basically IKEA furniture and picture frames. So I was kind of diving into the research of that process of like, what does that take and what would the construction be, and kind of deciding that I think I wanted to do that. And I was going to work with an architect to come up with the plan, so I wouldn't start from nothing. But like then also I wanted to do the whole thing, and I didn't really want. My husband didn't. It's not his. He didn't want to do it. So it was my harebrained plan, and I wanted to do it all. And all of the mentors that I had as students, I work with almost all of them now. A few have retired, but I'm pretty awesome that a lot of them are still my colleagues. And coming here and asking them. Do you think I could pull this off? Do you think I could make this? And they're like, of course, duh. And Jeff Wetzig, who is professor in our department and was one of my mentors, I TA'd for him as a student, and he's built his own house on his property. And I'm like, well, should I get the footings like done by a company? And he's like, or should I rent an auger? How should I do that? And he's like, just dig them by hand. You can do that. That's no problem. And I just kind of like left thinking like, I think this is unique. And I think that's like when I was in as a student, like walking into all those studios, like, of course you can weld that thing. Of course you can build that thing. Of course you can, what do you want to make? You want to do that? Okay, let's do it. Like that was always the attitude. And I don't know if that's unique or if there's any kind of gender dynamic to that, but I always really felt empowered and encouraged to do whatever I wanted to do, and really like equipped to figure it out. And so while I look at my role now and feel so blessed for ways that I can connect in unique ways with the female students in my department, and the other female instructors and professors that I work with, the ways that we are able to connect and bring a dynamic to each other in our art making practice that is unique. I really like felt valued and encouraged and built up as a student here. And I think in the philosophy department, I felt that same way too. Of course you can write about that. Of course you can tell me more about this. Like the expectations were high, and I don't know. Yes, for sure. And I think, right, like a diversity of perspectives is always beneficial, especially in something like art. Like each of our backgrounds and stories brings into our own art making experience nuance that we can then share with our students' art making experience. And the more diverse that is, ultimately benefits the students. And I think also when I would be curious what it is on paper, but when I was a student, the department was certainly more 50-50 in terms of male-female students, or maybe even more male. I mean, the landscape of art and the landscape of graphic design was still extremely male dominated. And now it's much more female dominated. And so that dynamic has shifted. But I do think there are maybe threads, or like not categories of nuance, but like kind of consistent sort of sides of a thing, right? That perhaps the women in our department are generally more attuned to or interested in, that I think broadens that. The way we do critiques, the way we follow up with students, kind of the range of feedback we can give too, maybe, right? Like, I don't know, I think it's, while my experience as a student was positive, I think it's definitely positive now to have more of those voices in there. Has it ever been difficult to be a woman at Bethel? I find the question interesting because it is always difficult to be a person everywhere. And it is always easy to feel like a misfit somehow all the time, you know? So I have heard in my career lots of colleagues with probably more specific experiences that have been challenging, whether it's the way students relate to them or particular students relate to them or the kinds of course evaluations they receive, that I have not experienced. I definitely had 3 babies prior to any sort of like maternity leave care stuff here, and that was hard. Like, there's no place to pump when you come back as a breastfeeding mother here. I mean, I've been like walked in on my office more than once. So little things like that are challenging, and perhaps maybe like the bigger gaps that I've experienced. But generally not in a like big way. Does that make sense? That's always a tricky one too, right? Because it's ultimately a question of like culture of whatever that environment is, right? Whether it's a team or a department or a church or whatever. And I play different roles in all of those places. You know, here I'm very much in a leadership role, both with students and with my own work. I'm in charge of myself and do things in more of a leadership capacity. So then when I get outside of here and like I'm at church, like I don't really want to be in charge of anything. So I don't know. I mean, I always feel like I have a voice in the different departments and things that I'm on here, and I don't know that I feel particularly different roles in the communities that I'm in. I'm also like a pretty like strong-willed and like intuitive person, and so if a place is not working, I just leave. So a lot of these things are a little bit tricky because I'm not the type of person to sit in a position of being treated in a way that I don't appreciate, and I have no problem just changing that boundary or walking out of that. And so I think about this a lot because, yeah, I don't know. So anyway, I really liked the when I was building the studio, when I was asking, having everyone just be like, duh, you can carry 4x8 foot sheets of plywood to the top of a roof and you can borrow my scaffolding. Like that was that was one. I also was thinking on here though, like the question about mentors and what women impacted me when I was a student. Like I was so impacted by the women I went to school with. You know, those weren't leaders, but my roommates, and I had roommates who were nursing and education and biology, you know, like a range of young women who were like really serious about working hard at school and like brought the best out of me. And, you know, I was the night owl and they all woke up early. And then by the end of my career, I'm waking up early too. But I just like being around other amazing women, even as we were all growing and trying to find our voice. Like those are the people that I still do life with and parent with and ask advice with. And obviously in their departments, they were being mentored too. And so that kind of question of mentoring. While I wasn't someone here who, had that one strong female professor that I went to, like absolutely the women around me absolutely shaped me into who I am. And generally being able to come to a place like this and have so many people kind of like moving in a similar direction of like wanting to grow in their faith and wanting to bring their values into their work and wanting to like seek what a vocational calling means for them and wanting to work hard in all of the opportunities that they're given was really meaningful, and I think tied to the Bethel DNA. My biggest hopes are that we do what we are called to do regardless of what the market wants us to do. That Bethel will look to broader culture and be able to say, we need God-fearing, humble leaders in this area of culture, this area of culture, this area of culture, and this area of culture, and that we will equip and send people there. And when it's not cool to be a poli-sci major, we will still be producing poli-sci majors. Or when it's not cool to be in journalism, we will be producing journalists. And that our diversity continues to grow, that we have men and women and people of all different backgrounds that are equipped to go out into these spaces and ultimately bring the good news and be a force for good out there. That's my hope for